Bonner came into this game with an edge from the opening minutes, getting into Clark's space, jawing at her, doing the kind of constant low-level irritation that's designed to throw a player off their game. It didn't feel like competitive trash talk between two players who respect each other. It felt like Bonner had something personal she wanted to work out on the court, and Clark was the target she'd chosen. What Bonner miscalculated, though, is that the Indiana Fever she walked into on June 22 isn't the same short-handed group that had to scramble for replacement players last year. The roster around Clark looks different now. There's more depth, more toughness, and players who've specifically shown they won't let Clark get targeted without a response. Bonner spent 9 games with this organization, so she might not have known that yet. She found out pretty quickly. The crowd was loud, the team was ready, and Clark hadn't even started cooking yet when it became obvious this game was going to go sideways for Phoenix in a way they weren't prepared for. 6 points. Indiana scored 6 points in the first quarter, and that's not a typo or an exaggeration.
As that one doesn't go. And Bonner and Clark continue. And players and officials now getting involved. Security has come off the bench. And Clark is trying to get these fans into it.
The franchise hadn't put up a number that low since 2016. And Phoenix's defense earned all of it by packing the paint so tight that Indiana couldn't find a clean look anywhere near the basket. Phoenix came in with a clear plan: crowd the interior, take away the driving lanes, and force Indiana to beat them from the outside with cold jumpers in the early minutes of the game. It worked. The Fever looked disorganized and tight, settling for shots that weren't falling, and every miss made the next possession feel harder. Clark.
Well, we're already setting up a game for Wednesday night, by the way, but let's not forget DeWanna Bonner was a member of the Indiana Fever last season, and I'm not sure if she parted on great terms. And Caitlin Clark and DeWanna now on multiple possessions getting tied up.
And now Hines Allen and Thomas, who had a couple.
Missed her first 5 attempts and finished the quarter scoreless, which almost never happens. Indiana went 2 for 18 from the field as a team. And the only reason they even got to 6 points is because Kelsey Mitchell hit a 3-pointer with 0.7 seconds left on the clock. Without that, it's 3 points. 3. Phoenix led 19-6 after 1 quarter and looked like they were about to turn this into a blowout before halftime. The officiating didn't help Indiana find its footing either. Foul calls kept going Phoenix's way. The Fever were getting hit on possessions where nothing got whistled, and the whole first quarter had this tilted feeling where Indiana couldn't get a bounce even when they deserved one. Coach Stephanie White told her team at the break to wake up, find some energy, and trust that the shots would fall if they kept attacking. She assured them that jumpers would come. Clark confirmed after the game that the team just lacked energy and that Phoenix's paint-packing strategy was bothering them, getting into their heads a little and making the offense stiff. Then the second quarter started, and Clark stopped waiting for the offense to sort itself out. She took over.
Colson snagging that offensive rebound. Good job. Yeah, the Colson brother who was in Vegas, won some championships, and it was her birthday. She turned 30.
And the word took over doesn't really do it justice, because what she actually did was pull Indiana out of a hole by herself, scoring 15 points in the second quarter alone, including threes from well beyond 30 feet that had nothing to do with the play design Phoenix was trying to disrupt. Those weren't set plays. Those were Clark deciding she'd seen enough and launching from wherever she felt like it. Indiana outscored Phoenix 35-22 in that second quarter. Let's sit with that for a second, because it means the Fever went from 6 points in 12 minutes to 35 points in the next 12, completely wiping out a 16-point deficit and walking into halftime tied. Clark accounted for 15 of those 35 points herself. So nearly half of Indiana's entire second quarter output came from one player who'd been completely shut out in the first quarter and decided to flip a switch. That 35-point quarter is one of the most explosive Indiana has put together all season. And it happened right after their worst quarter in nearly a decade. The whiplash of it was jarring to watch, and the crowded Gainbridge absolutely felt the shift in real time as the lead evaporated possession by possession. What the first quarter actually showed isn't that Indiana's offense is broken. It showed that when everything stalls, the team leans on Clark to accelerate things. And the second quarter was Clark accepting that without any hesitation. But while Clark was dragging the Fever back into contention, Phoenix was still trying to make the game physical. And the moment that really defined the night's tone hadn't happened yet. Alyssa Thomas threw an elbow at Caitlin Clark, and the officials called the foul on Clark, not on Thomas. On Clark for hitting Thomas's elbow with her chest. The refs reviewed it, looked at the replay, and still came back with that call. And if you watched it in real time, you could hear the entire Gainbridge crowd lose their minds simultaneously. But Clark had been tangling all game with Phoenix's physicality sitting right at the edge of what the refs felt like calling.
So the leadership.
Well, this is fighting for position, but I mean, Caitlin Clark issued a technical foul. You can hear the crowd react,
and Clark is perplexed and shocked as to why she was assisted technical.
Well, I will say, release and jump around would also be an option, you know, pulling the chair. But
when Thomas swung that elbow from behind toward Clark's face and connected, the crowd saw it clearly. Clark felt it, and the whistle went the wrong direction. Anyway, Clark reacted, and Bonner immediately got in her face, because of course she did. And everything that had been building since tip-off finally boiled over in one loud, chaotic stretch of fourth-quarter basketball. Sophie Cunningham stepped in not to calm things down, not to play peacemaker, but because she'd spent the whole game watching Clark get targeted, and she was done letting it happen without a response. Cunningham got between Clark and Bonner and made it clear that whatever Bonner thought she was about to do, she'd have to go through Cunningham first. And Cunningham meant it. Let's talk about Sophie's history here, because this wasn't some new instinct she developed after joining the Fever. Back in 2025, when J.C. Sheldon appeared to deliberately poke Clark in the eye during a game, Cunningham was the one who got vocal about it and made noise publicly. And she wasn't even Clark's teammate yet at that point. She just decided.
Caitlin, you guys trailed by as many as 16 points in the first quarter. What led to the response we saw in the second?
Yeah, just fight. First quarter was embarrassing. Got to be able to space the floor, make open shots, and get downhill. I thought we did a lot better job getting our feet in the paint. That's what allowed us to get better looks, and then we also got to the free throw line, which helped as well.
That what happened to Clark was wrong and said so. Now that they're on the same team, that protective instinct has gotten sharper and more direct. And the Bonner confrontation on June 22nd is what it looks like in practice. What followed the Cunningham-Bonner confrontation was 6 technical fouls in 8 seconds. 6. Officials threw technicals at anything that moved. Nalissa Smith shoved someone and picked up an ejection, and the fourth quarter dissolved into a stop-start mess of reviews, video challenges, and foul calls that made the whole period feel less like basketball and more like a league meeting that got out of hand. Indiana.
Clark from way outside drops a three! Couple 50-50 balls on the last 2 possessions have gone the way of Phoenix, and it turned into buckets. Clark, oh yeah!
here we go.
Clark almost got that 5th foul. Find inside. It's Boston.
Still managed the chaos better than Phoenix did, but the flow of the game was gone. Then Clark clapped. She clapped her hands at a bad call, the way players do roughly 40 times every game across the entire league without anyone blinking. And she collected her 5th technical foul of the season. Her 5th for clapping. Players yell at refs, turn their backs on calls, wave their arms, and do far more than Clark did on that play without getting whistled. But Clark put her hands together near a referee who'd been making questionable decisions all night and picked up a technical for it.
Indiana brings a double that time.
Clark, Mitchell is on an island. Clark wants to keep piling on. When will they pick her up here? He's not been afraid to let it fly from out there. Clark just spins off a Broshon. Indiana has numbers. Clark launch ahead, and Hall hits a three.
Double standard in that moment wasn't subtle, but here's where it gets interesting. Right after all those scuffles and all those technicals, Bonner went to the free throw line and missed. Then Thomas went to the free throw line and missed, too. Clark, who'd watched the officiating tilt against her team for 3+ quarters, noticed. She didn't say a word on the court, but her reaction told the whole story, and every person in Gainbridge understood exactly what was happening. Ball don't lie is a phrase for a reason. Cunningham's role in this game went well beyond one confrontation with Bonner.
Hull, bouncing, Billings, extra pass, Boston to beat the buzzer, and knocks down a three! Billings, oh, nobody picked her up!
She's the player on Indiana's roster who's figured out that opposing teams target Clark as a deliberate strategy, and she's appointed herself the person who makes that strategy expensive. Clark finished with 24 points, 9 assists, and only 3 turnovers in 29 minutes, shooting 8 for 17 from the field. And that assist number tells you everything about how Indiana actually won this game. 9 assists means 9 possessions where Clark created a clean look and a teammate converted it. And when you're
able to win the jump, Thomas comes up with it, but is going to get whistled for an offensive foul. And she's looking at Nate Tibbetts. He doesn't even look to the back of the bench. He immediately signaled to take a look at.
Oh,
yeah, that's
saw
not
the elbow extend from behind, and
that's not going to get overturned, I don't think.
Doing that while also scoring 24 yourself, the defense has absolutely no answer for you. She can pull up off the dribble, attack closeouts, and get to her spots without anyone setting a screen. So Phoenix couldn't just collapse their whole defense toward Clark and leave Mitchell open. They had to respect both of them at the same time, and that's a losing battle. Mitchell's 22 points were a direct result of Phoenix having no good answer for 2 players who can each score on their own terms. Lexi Hall went perfect from the field and connected on both her 3-point attempts. And while that stat line won't dominate anyone's highlights, it absolutely shaped what Indiana's offense could do all night.
Successful challenge. The timeout will be charged to Indiana because they're due. Phoenix will retain their timeout.
just like we thought, right? They would say this, okay? When you see the elbow, you go, oh, if she caught her, that would have been, it could have been bad. Yeah. Yes. But the officials are saying, Caitlin Clark put a little too much body into AT.
When Hull is hitting from outside, Phoenix can't keep 2 defenders near the basket, which opens up everything Clark and Mitchell want to run in the mid-range and at the rim. Hull's clean shooting night was the kind of performance that makes everyone else's job easier without getting much credit for it. Monique Billings had been a question mark heading into this season, specifically whether she and Clark could build enough chemistry fast enough to actually matter in games. Let's talk about where that chemistry comes from, because it didn't start in Indiana. Clark and Billings played together internationally through FIBA competition. So they already had reps together before Billings ever put on a Fever uniform.
I understand the frustration in the technical because there's 2 players just battling for position. Oh my.
And they're still going. Now it's Cunningham and Bonner. Keep in mind, Cunningham and Bonner have history as teammates. Nate Tibbetts out on the floor, Stephanie White out on the floor, and Amy Bonner is telling everybody to go to their benches as DeWanna Bonner hears it from this Fever faithful.
That familiarity is starting to show up in real ways now, with Billings reading where Clark's passes are going before they leave her hands instead of reacting after the ball is already in the air. On June 22nd, Billings posted 14 points and 10 rebounds for her first Fever double-double. And a lot of those points came from catching Clark's passes in exactly the right spots and finishing without hesitation. Are you ready for the record? Clark's 24-point, 9-assist night extended her streak of consecutive games with at least 20 points and 5 assists to 6 straight, which is the longest streak in WNBA history. 6 straight. Nobody in the history of this league has ever strung together 6 consecutive games doing both things at that level. And Clark...
Quarter we go, they're trailing by 10. Keep an eye on her and JC Sheldon. Clark trying to back her down. Sheldon, that was Clark, hitting her in the face. Clark is upset about that. Then everybody's upset about that. Marina Mabry comes in. She decks Clark, tempers flaring on.
Did it in a game where she spent half the night fighting bad officiating and physical play from a team that came in specifically trying to disrupt her. Scoring 20 points and dishing 5 assists in a single game is a great night for any player in any era of the WNBA. Doing it 6 games in a row means you're operating as the primary scorer and the primary playmaker simultaneously game after game, even when the other team is scheming specifically to stop you from doing exactly that. Those two roles pull against each other under normal circumstances, because the more you score, the more attention you attract and the harder it gets to create for teammates. Clark's doing both anyway.
Chris, I said it earlier, you saw it earlier too, like, AT doesn't get moved very easily, and so she might not feel like that's that much of a hit, but the officials are looking at it, and Caitlin Clark is saying ball don't lie, right?
I was going to say, the fans are enjoying a little bit of playground justice.
It's like you paid for overtime, but it wasn't overtime, it's just a really long fourth quarter.
We still have...
Indiana won 86-77. And that final margin doesn't capture how much of the night the Fever spent clawing back from a 6-point first quarter, absorbing bad calls, and managing a fourth quarter that dissolved into technical fouls and an ejection before they finally got enough separation to breathe. Clark walked out of Gainbridge and told reporters exactly what happened. It's ridiculous. I got a technical for clapping.
Played well here tonight for Indiana, giving Stephanie White 16 good minutes. Mitchell shot clock down to 4, putting up the move, and knocking it down!
No spin, no diplomacy, just the plain truth about a night where the officiating went sideways, and she still dropped 24 points and 9 assists. Anyway, Clark appreciated every teammate who had her back, saying she's grateful to have players who will go to battle for each other. Bonner came back to Indianapolis, spent the night in Clark's face, missed her free throws after the scuffle, and rode the bus home with a loss. Let's show Caitlin and Sophie some love down in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications as we're bringing you all the action and top stories. Click the video on the screen and we'll see you in the next one.
Points per game over her last 5. Boston kick out, Mitchell swing it, Hull hits a 3.
Boy, did Lexi Hull need that for her confidence. She is one of the best players out of the corner.
Monique Billings, oh, nobody picked her up! She will waltz to the rim, and Indiana has gone from down 16 to up 10.
She said, to go right here. Go her all-star.
Big dubs! WWF. Y'all know what this means.
That's a dub, baby! Beaver dub! Ow! Dub City, baby. Come back Wednesday. Dubs in the chat. Look at all my beautiful teammates, y'all. This is what we do. Indiana Fever, baby.